The sun hung low over the rolling fields of Benton County, Tennessee, casting long shadows across the torn earth. Amos Carter, a third-generation farmer, stood at the edge of his soybean field, his weathered hands gripping a shotgun. The once lush rows of green were now a patchwork of devastation, uprooted plants, churned soil, and hoofprints the size of dinner plates. Wild boars had struck again, the third time this month. Amos's jaw tightened as he scanned the horizon, his eyes tracing the tree line where the invaders often emerged at dusk. Each night was a gamble, a test of nerve against creatures that seemed to mock his efforts to protect his livelihood. The boars weren't just animals. They were a relentless force, tearing through his crops, his savings, and his hope. Last year, he'd lost $20,000 to their rampages, and the bank was circling like a vulture. Amos adjusted his grip, the cold steel of the gun a small comfort against the chaos that had become his life. 2 miles away, in a cramped office at the county's wildlife management station, Dr. Lena Navarro pored over a topographic map dotted with red pins. Each pin marked a reported boar sighting, a constellation of destruction spreading across the county. Lena, a wildlife biologist with a PhD from Auburn, had spent 3 years studying feral hogs, but their cunning still astonished her. She'd seen them outsmart traps, dodge hunters, and vanish into the underbrush like ghosts. Her laptop hummed, with data population models predicting a 70% increase in boar numbers over the next decade if unchecked. A single sow could birth 10 piglets a year, and those piglets could breed within months. Lena's job was to find a balance, control the boars without tipping the delicate ecological scales. She scribbled notes on a potential sodium nitrite bait trial, a controversial method that could poison non-target species if mishandled. Her phone buzzed with a text from Amos. They hit again. Need help. Lena sighed, knowing another sleepless night awaited Dot across the county, in a pickup truck rattling down a dirt road. Hunter Travis Trav Malone loaded his over 15 with practiced ease. Trav, a former Marine turned feral hog hunter, had made a name for himself in these parts. His truck bed held a cage trap, thermal binoculars, and a cooler of energy drinks for the long nights ahead. Boar hunting wasn't just a job. It was a war. Trav had seen 400-pound boars charge without hesitation, their tusks gleaming under moonlight, and he'd felt the adrenaline of a close call more times than he cared to admit. Tonight, he was headed to Amos's farm, part of a community hunt, organized to stem the tide. The boars were smarter than most gave them credit, for Trav had watched them skirt traps after one encounter, as if they'd memorized the playbook. He glanced at his dog, Rusty, a wiry Catahoula mix panting in the passenger seat. Rusty's nose was their best weapon, but even he struggled against the boar's elusive tactics. Amos's farm was a battleground by dusk. The air carried the musky scent of churned earth and the distant grunts of the invaders. Lena arrived, her field bag slung over her shoulder, joining Amos and Trav at the field's edge. The trio formed an uneasy alliance. Amos, driven by desperation to save his farm. Lena, armed with science but haunted by the ecological cost of failure. And Trav, fueled by the thrill of the hunt but wary of the boar's unpredictability. Lena unrolled a map, pointing to a nearby creek bed where boars likely retreated after raids. "They're using the waterway as a highway," she said, her voice steady despite the tension. "If we set traps there, we might catch a sounder." Amos nodded, though his eyes betrayed doubt traps had failed before. Trav, checking his rifle scope, muttered, "Better hope they don't charge first." The night unfolded in a tense rhythm. Trav and Rusty scouted the creek, their silhouettes blending into the shadows. Rusty's ears perked, catching a rustle in the underbrush. Trav raised his thermal binoculars, spotting the heat signatures of a dozen boars, big ones, moving fast. He radioed Lena and Amos. "Sounder, 200 yards out. Get ready." Amos, stationed near a makeshift blind, felt his heart pound. He'd faced boars before, but never a group this size. Lena, monitoring a drone feed from her tablet, tracked the boar's path, her fingers trembling as she relayed coordinates. The boars were heading straight for the soybean field, their hooves tearing through the earth like a storm. "They're splitting up," Lena warned. Two groups, half to the field, half to the creek. The confrontation was chaos. Trav fired a warning shot, hoping to scatter the boars, but the largest, a 300-pound beast with tusks like curved daggers, charged.
If you'll enjoy this video, please like and subscribe my channel for more information.